Good evening, friends. First of all, thank you for joining on a Friday evening. I can understand Friday evening after 5 o'clock, what is the mood? It's a weekend. But I really appreciate and thank you all for joining this session.
Webinar is taken through webinar.
So thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, anything, you can chat and you can keep your request, put your request in a chat. Okay. Once the chat, maybe and after end of time, 5 to 10 minutes, we'll have a question and answer. Okay. So what is the agenda for today? We'll brief about TransLab and our services. We'll let you know like what are the exactly real world IT challenges and how Ansible can help it out. Okay, what are the miracles or an adventures which you can do with Ansible? And at the end of the question, at the end we will have an Q&A. If anything is there, you keep your questions in the chat room. I'll reply on it. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I am Neeraj. I am Neeraj Thopte. I am in this industry from last 15 years. So I have been associated with a lot of projects which I have done in BFSI, which included databases, IT automations, entire IT data centers. And I have seen the world like the last 15 years, like how the IT has evolved when we were in 2005 and now we are in 2020. So in the term when we were in 2005, 2005 was an era where the IT was developing it out, right? A lot of new things were coming up. You have a system admin, you have a database guy, you have a separate development team, you have a separate operations team. So it was an entire separate part. But in the current scenario, if you see, once you have joined any organization or you are working with an organization, the expectations have been changed. So people expect that you should know the operations. If you are a developer, you should know an operations little bit so that the cycle is very smaller. So how we can help it out? So brief about TransLab. TransLab Technologies we founded in 2015 from veterans from IBM, Infosys, Dell. We all came together and we started this organization. At this point in time, we have supported almost 150 plus customers in their digital transformation journey. If you include in the digital transformation journey, we have done a lot of automations. We have helped customers to move from their traditional infrastructure to a digital automated way. We have approximately 30 plus DevOps and containers projects completed in which Ansible played an important role when we were doing this operations. Okay, or we were helping the customers for their transformation. At this point in time, we have more than 100 plus certified professionals and industry experts with us. So what are our services if people are still joining? So TransLab at this point in time provide approximately 6 services, right? We include cloud, we have infrastructure as a code, DevOps, data warehousing and analytics, technology advisor, and managed services. A very particular thing, if somebody asks me what is an infrastructure as a service, right? So infrastructure service is the next generation where we can automate the entire IT infrastructure, starting from provisioning, deployment, operations, and monitoring. So you can write it out as an infrastructure as a code. So let's see what are the real world IT challenges which we are facing. Okay. First of all, whenever we go and talk to any of our data center guys or any of our DevOps or any of the IT guy, what are the real world IT challenges which people face? First is there are a lot of automated or legacy technologies. If you talk, few people are with their IBM, which are like 10 years old, or there are few operations or few of the technologies which are very old. Okay, so it is very difficult to automate this legacy technologies as with the new operations. So how can we make it out easy? The second is it has a complex processes and reduced productivity. For each and every applications which you are talking, each application has a dependency. If you talk about any of the ERP environment, it has a dependency since we have evolved from 2015 to now. It has a dependency on the warehouse, it has a dependency on the analytics, it has a dependency on the operations, it has a dependency on IT. So it is a complex, if you see when we started and now, it is a complex IT process or a complex IT world where each and every environment are interlinked. So without automation, can we think if I have to do a change on a single environment, is it possible that the changes, how the changes will affect the other environment? So this is the complexity which is now in the real world, which people are facing. Then there are a lot of risk and vulnerabilities, and the major for any of the CSO or the CIO, the major challenge which is there is the risks and vulnerabilities. There are a lot of malware attacks which are happening. How can I keep my system updated? If there are, and people are operating with more than 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 of servers, how I can keep my entire servers, entire IT landscape out of the risk and vulnerabilities. So putting, am I missing anything? So if you see any of our traditional part, each and everywhere, so each and every time it will have like, I have to patch the entire IT landscape, right? And the last and the other, there are daily repetitive tasks. For example, if I need to do a monitoring or a check on a particular system, and if I have 1,000 system, I will be almost 40 or 50 people will be just be utilized only to monitor this environment, and which is a repetitive process which can be automated with simple playbooks or with a simple process. And the entire 40-50 people's landscape can be useful for more business or any innovative job. So this will help customers, or this will help customers to increase their productivity and minimize the risks, minimize the errors, keep the uptime. So these are few of the real world IT challenges which teams or which people are facing. So just to give a brief, what is an infrastructure as a code? So infrastructure as a code is a process or an automation where you can provision the infrastructure. You can, so it's like a process. You provision the infrastructure, you develop your application, you deploy it out, and based upon the scalability, you can scale out based upon your load. So infrastructure as a code as a new term which has come up where it has helped. So DevOps uses a lot of infrastructure as a code. So if you can see like any of the faster deployments or any of the faster development, if you see now people have come up on the containers. So containers, you require very fast deployments. Why people are going on a containers at this point in time? So that your go to market is very fast. You don't have much downtime. So if you see, infrastructure as a code can be applied to your DevOps environment. It can be applied to your cloud and infra environment, and it will help us to eliminate the repeatable tasks. So what are the repeatable tasks if I go to any of the organization? In any of the organizations in the IT world, if you're going, the repetitive task is like, can I automate my end-to-end batch jobs? Or are there any processes or any manual work which have been done? There are a lot of configuration management which you need to keep on changing. There are a lot of patches which you need to apply. There are a lot of schedule standards. So for example, if my operation or if my application is only valid from 8 to 8, can I stop after 8? If I go ahead and start and stop at around 8 o'clock, so I can minimize some of my cloud billing, right? So a lot of cloud has also come up now on a pay as you use. So any of my operation is required only from 8 to 8. I can have a DevOps or an infrastructure as a code, which can help you to automate. At the same time, it can help you to start, stop script. It can help you to auto scale. For example, during the batch or during the week or during the month end. During the month end, a lot of times what happens there is a lot of processes required. So a lot of application or the vertical scalability is required because there will be a lot of month end jobs which people run. With an infrastructure as a code, you can scale out at that point in time. And once the operations is over, you can scale down. So if you talk about you go to any of your IT organization and ask him, sir, can I get a new server? If you people are, so they will say, okay, give me 2 or 3 days. Then after that, you have to put up a lot of patches, right? If we write an infrastructure as a code, you can just go, please give me a MongoDB or a Red Hat Linux template. What he has to do, he has to pick up the infrastructure as a code of that particular operation and give you. So the operations which used to take for 2-3 days or 5 days with your entire can be reduced to maybe a few hours. So what are the different methodologies and other tools which people are using? A lot of people are using DevOps, right? If you talk about DevOps, there are a lot of tools available like Chef, Puppet, and Ansible. If you talk at this point in time where we have set up our webinar, Ansible is a tool which can be used across. It doesn't matter if it is for automation, it is for provisioning. So you can use Ansible for entire part because it is based on a simple playbooks. So let's go ahead and talk. What is Ansible at this point in time? Okay. So first of all, in an Ansible is a platform which works on a YAML script. If you people might have gone in your education or that, if a YAML script is a small task wise, like you can read it out at any point in time, it will be install Tomcat, install or create an Oracle database. That type of simple language you can encode in a YAML script. So if any of the automation is required, I can encode that in the YAML script, and the Ansible engine can help you for the entire automation, deployment, provisioning. First of all, it is very powerful. Powerful when I talk, it can, as I said, it can be used across, whether it is provisioning, deployment, DevOps, monitoring, or integration with any of the third party. So you can orchestrate your entire life cycle. If you go to any of an IT organization, how the life cycle starts? The life cycle always starts that there is a business application has come up. The business application requires a particular server. Once it requires a particular server, it requires a particular OS. It requires a particular security guidelines to be put up. It requires a particular firewall settings to be done. It requires the minimum packages which is required for an application and the application deployment. Once this is the deployment or the application cycle. Okay. Once it is deployed, then it requires your monitoring of the process, because if any application is going live, it requires a monitoring. The third part, which is very important, is the migration. For example, there are continuous changes which happens in an organization or in a business application. So it has to get replicated to the production. So how fast I can replicate it with a minimum downtime? So using an automation or using an Ansible script, you can reduce that. The best, if you compare any tool in the market, the advantage of having Ansible is an agentless tool. You do not require any agent to be put up on your servers. If you talk about any tools which are available, each and every tool require an agent which has to be. It just requires an SSH or for the Windows and WinRM and an authentication. And all is done. No need to deploy any agent. So it is very easily scalable. Tomorrow, if the IT team wants to move from 5 or move from 1000 to 2000, I don't have to change any code. I have to just bring their IP address in the configuration and my automation is done. And my YAML scripts or my playbooks can pick up and deploy on any number of. So it is scalable. And at the same time, it is reliable. When you talk when we talk about reliability, for example, a lot of IT customers or they don't have a standardization. For example, if they have an RHEL 7, the patch level of RHEL 7 on and production will be different from their UAT, or it might be different from the development. So when they do a migration or when they do a deployment from their test to, they face a lot of problems. So using an Ansible or Ansible automation, I can bring the entire automation, standardization, and I know if I need to deploy anything, I have to render to this particular standards. Otherwise, I cannot, because there are a lot of errors which happens when you do anything manually. Whereas this is just an automation where you put up the step, check, apply, compare, and do it. And the best part of Ansible, along with an agentless, it is an integration. So along with Red Hat Ansible Tower, you get an API. So if I have any application which I need to automate, I can use the integrated APIs for that. So the APIs can be authenticated at any level. So it even supports at your SSL authentication. So anybody talks and comes, boss, is it secured? We can always go, my Ansible talks on an HTTPS, which is a secured environment. It is with an SSL 128 or a 256-bit encryption. And you integrate it with anything. It can talk to your AWS services. It can talk to your Azure services. It can talk to any of the application. It is so easy to integrate. It has a small code which you can implement it out, change the URL, put up the username, password, and you are done. So it has its own API. If you want to launch any of the playbook, any of the job, you can integrate with your homegrown applications also. You can integrate it with the third-party tools. Third-party tools you can integrate. For example, a lot of people now are asking that, can I integrate my L1 jobs? L1 jobs which are like very repeated. For example, if I need to create a user, which is an L1 job. For example, if I need to give an access or permission to a particular directory, or if I need to create an AS folder. So these are like L1 jobs, right? Which is like, if you automate it out, it can be done. So if using Ansible, you can integrate that part also. So if any request has come to any of my ITISM tool, whether it is a ServiceNow, whether it is an HPSM, whether it is an Everest, it can be integrated in the workflow. And once it is approved, I don't need any of the engineers to go. It can auto deploy, or it can do the task, do the L1 job and come back. So I talked about the YAML. Okay, YAML is a multilingual language. Similar to your XML, it has a particular format which you need to follow. And writing using a simple keywords or a simple read write, like we write an SQL, select star from count. It is very simple. Install the application, CP, copy the particular file, source, destination. So it is human readable. You can, any of the person who doesn't know coding can read this command and understand what are the instructions being done in a playbook. And at the same time, it can be used to manage your configuration and deployment. So you can integrate multiple playbooks, or you can integrate your entire IT operations in a playbook, writing the commands like create a virtual machine. Then you apply the OS patches, or deploy the OS image, apply the OS patches, create a Tomcat, Nginx, Marvel, Maven, whatever tools you want, you create it out, and you deploy an application. Okay, and the major advantage of writing a playbook, you write once and use it across for any of the application, and it is just an IP address change, and it can be used for the standardization. So if you can see, the playbooks looks like this. Okay, the playbooks contains a simple language. This is an Ansible playbook for a Nginx deployment. So Nginx is a web tool where you can deploy your front-end web-based application. It is also used for load balancing. It is also used for your SSL proxies. It can also use as a proxy server. So this is a small code, how easily I can deploy an Nginx on any of the environment. If you see on the left-hand side, it has a simple which starts with the name. What I'm going to do with this playbook. So it is simple states I am going to install an Nginx. Where I want to install, I have to just mention is the host. The host is either an host name or an IP address. You put up an host name or an IP address and your work is done. So Ansible uses an SSH. So as soon as you give this host name, it will go and connect to that IP address or an host name. Then if you see, it has a tasks. To install an Nginx, it requires the minimum EPEL release in the Linux. So these are the basic. So this is by default, it will update or upgrade your patches also. So it will apply whatever patches are required for an Nginx. It will install the entire Nginx. And it will check. If you see there, it has an state which is present. So even it will verify in the application, if Nginx is present, please don't do it. You just restart. But if the Nginx is not present, you install Nginx and start it. So writing this code, it has so much of intelligence which you can use it out here. So it has its own intelligence. If any of the deployment is there, I should not go and do it. It is already there. So I will just restart it or I will stop it out. So the intelligence can be built up in a simple way. So like state. So state is present or there is a force. So if force, what it will do, if you put up as a force, it will undeploy the existing Nginx and install the new Nginx. And at the same time, if you see, it has also put up or copied a small code of index.html to the Nginx directory also. So this is like an end-to-end deployment which has done, which has also installed an Nginx. So instead of this source file, it can be my Git repository. It can be my source system. It can be my containers. Or this we can use this as a container deployment. And at the end, once everything is there, it will start the Nginx. Where state, it will check as started, stopped, or restart. So I hope I am not getting any question. Okay, there are some chats. Okay, just before I move to another slide, so Ishwar has asked me, is Ansible and Terraform same? See, Ansible and Terraform, if you talk about Terraform, Terraform is, before I move to another slide, I'll answer this question. This is a very good question asked from Ishwar. See, Ansible is a platform, whereas Terraform is a platform which can be used for the cloud deployment. But what we have seen in the Terraform at this point in time, Terraform has some inbuilt code, whereas Ansible, you can configure or write any of the code. So this both works for the configuration management, but Ansible has more, it can also use for your monitoring. It can use for an outside integration, whereas Terraform, which we have seen till now, is more of a cloud deployment. You can use Terraform for the Google Cloud deployments, or you can use Terraforms for the AWS platform. So let's look at what are the Ansible and its advantages. First of all, few of the team impacts. It saves time and increase productivity. Like I've given an example, if you have to deploy an application or if you have to install an Nginx, you don't have to go and code it independently or code it manually. This can be automated. So it doesn't require a system admin or a person who has a Linux skill to do the installation of Nginx. It can be done by anyone once the automation is done. It also eliminates the repetitive tasks and free up some time for the developers and the administrator. Repetitive tasks, in my terms, like in a big organizations, every day there are a lot of users has to be created, and at the same time there will be a lot of privileges which needs to be changed. So this is an eliminated repetitive task. Can I automate it out? So why a user or why a administrator who has a big task to be done, he will sit and create an users that can be automated? So that will eliminate your repetitive task. Or there are few tasks, like every day there is a log rotation happens, or a particular directory gets full for the log. Can I automate using an Ansible where it automatically does a log rotation and it moves it to the backup or an NFS system? So instead of a person spending his 5 to 10 minutes or maybe few hours, we can use it up. We can use our Ansible playbooks to automate this operation. Then it reduces risks with fewer vulnerabilities from human errors. See, when you talk about vulnerabilities, now this world, at this point in time, there are a lot of malware attacks are happening, right? So your team or your laptop or your servers have to be updated with the latest antivirus, with the latest security patches. So if there are thousands of servers or thousands of laptops or thousands of desktops which needs to do a vulnerability, and if I am assigned an engineer, the team has to go individually and do this operation multiple times if the person is not there. So this is like a very time consuming job. Can I use Ansible to automate it out? Definitely. If a new patch has come, it can be automated with an Ansible. It doesn't matter. It is thousands, tens of thousands, or 1 lakh of the servers. You put up the patch, it has to go with an Ansible. So you are reducing the risks there with the fewer vulnerabilities. Then the second part, very important when you're talking about a team, it is like improve your collaboration. Okay, collaboration, if we were just, I wanted to, well, we started with our 2005, 2006 time when we used to work for big banks. The bank will have their own development team. The reporting team will do their job which doesn't known by an IT infra. The database team will do a job which will be not known by a developer. Okay, or there will be a business team who will not know. So including this, can I improve the collaboration? For example, if a database has to be created, it doesn't require to install a database guy to go and sit and install this. This can be automated. This is a repetitive process. So you can collaborate. So that's the way where the entire culture is going, where we call the development team and the operations come together. How can it happen? It can happen if you do a Ansible automation. So there are multiple business impacts. It overall reduces the complexity. Instead of doing the task manually on the applications, the processes can be automated. It saves a lot of money also for the customer. So that's why a lot of people are going and adapting these automations where they can reduce their manual errors and at the same time improve the productivity of their organization. The second part is automations using Ansible can help you to speed up your time to the market. The development team can concentrate only on their development, whereas the testing and the deployment in the applications can be automated. So they can spend more time on the development and efficiently deploy the applications faster. And first is the increasing accountability and compliance. Just to give a small brief, one of our application, there was some security or there was a attack. Since we had our automations very fast, the attack was happened only on 1 or 2 servers. But since we had our automation scripts ready for the immediate patches, within 20 or 25 minutes, we updated with the patch for more than 500 servers. And we avoided any type of attack on our servers because the patch was deployed immediately on all the applications. If that would have been a manual, I would have to shut down the entire data center and I would have to sit idle for 2 days applying patches on 500 servers. But this was done in hardly 25 minutes on 500 servers with our parallelization. So that level of complexity and that level of automation you can do if you apply an Ansible. The second part, there are a lot of PCI DSS or in any of the financial organization, you require a lot of compliance where you need to keep each and every server. For example, a bank like HDFC or an Axis, ICICI, or for example, a Karnataka bank, they have to comply the guidance, comply as per the audit terms from the RBI. And each of the bank have more than 5,000 of the servers. Using an Ansible, we can automate it out. And they are meeting their compliance. Since any of the process can be automated, writing a playbook and immediately apply on those number of servers or those number of applications. The second important thing which I wanted to discuss is the monitoring part. So there are a lot of monitoring tools available in the market, but if we talk about a monitoring with an Ansible, it can trigger things also. And you can put up in a process. Right. So Ishwar, what about Puppet, Chef and Nagios? Nagios is only a monitoring tool. It cannot do any of the automation. Whereas Puppet and Chef, these are more of the deployment tool. Whereas when I'm talking deployment means these are all DevOps deployment tool. But when I talk about Ansible, Ansible can do monitoring. It can do the work which Puppet or Chef does, and it can do any sort of thing. So Gagan, to answer your question at this point in time, yes, patch management can be done on any of the Linux, AIX or Windows environment. Since there is no dependency on any of this application, you can deploy or you can connect to any of the Linux environment, AIX or Windows. So see, for the bare metal server at this point in time, you cannot, because Ansible requires an SSH connectivity. On a bare metal server, you provide an ILOM. You can use Ansible and Terraform together. That will be a good form, because Terraform has some advantages also, like for the cloud deployment. It is a very beautiful tool for the cloud deployment. So use Terraform for the cloud deployment along with Ansible, but you can replace Terraform with Ansible. And few things about Ishwar to answer. Puppet, Chef and Nagios required a client to be installed on the servers, whereas Ansible do not require any of the client. It is agentless. It requires agent to be installed on the servers. Okay, let's move to our next. I just wanted to highlight few of the use cases which we can do with the Ansible. First is the application deployment, which I have explained you, like the entire DevOps or the life cycle can be automated. Provisioning of the new servers. We have even integrated it with Hyper-V, VMware and cloud. So we have used Ansible for creation of virtual machines and deployment of the OS using Ansible, whether it is on cloud, whether it is on premises, or it is on hybrid environment. You can use it for the provisioning. The second part is for the configuration management. Okay, configuration management, for example, if you have done some changes on your development environment, I have to put it up. The same configuration has to go to the production, right? So you can even centralize your configuration management. Centralize your configuration management in the terms, for example, if there are any of the specific Linux environment, for example, there are around 10 web servers which needs to be installed. Can I automate their configuration? Yes, I can definitely do the configuration or automate those configuration also. And the second part, as I have mentioned, it is a continuous delivery. I'll show you one demo at the end of this presentation where I can show like how it can pick up from the Git repository and it can deploy automatically the application, starting from provisioning. So that demo, it will cover your provisioning, configuration management, deployment and delivery. And your application is up and running in 2.5 minutes. Second is security and compliance, which I have already discussed. Like, a lot of auditing is required by an application, and auditing, it requires a lot of security compliances. It requires a lot of patching activity to be done. It is a lot of security policies to be applied. You can automate the entire security for the IT organization. Any changes in the security can move fast using the automation of Ansible. And the second part, which is integration and workflow, since along with Ansible Tower is an API based application. If you want to integrate it with your monitoring tool like Nagios or anything, you can integrate it up. If you want to integrate it with any of your IT ticketing tool, it can be integrated. If you want to integrate it with any other applications, even your development or your deployment provision, you can integrate, since it has a API based application. And you can define the workflows also there. You can schedule the jobs. So job scheduling can also be done. For example, if every Thursday I need to do a small level of patching, or there is an application patch deployment which needs to go every Thursday, you don't have to do, you can schedule that job and you will get the entire report. So before I move to my use cases, I wanted to talk like Ansible. Ansible I started with a community, whereas Red Hat Ansible, which is called as an Ansible Tower, has come up with lot of additional features like the API integrations, which has come up, or it has provided a beautiful GUI from where you can deploy the applications, you can deploy your templates, you can create the projects in an organization. So that is a beautiful thing which has come up with an Ansible Tower, which has been provided by Red Hat. So okay, let's move to a next thing. So let's talk about few of the use cases. See, Aki, at this point in time, you cannot do a bare metal using Ansible. As I have already mentioned, Ansible requires a SSH or an WinRM connectivity. So in a bare metal server, unless you assign an IP address, it has an ILOM IP address, which is like a network, but it doesn't have an SSH connectivity. You have to connect the particular cable back to back and have the initial deployment. So at this point in time, Ansible cannot provision the bare metal server. Okay. So so there are 3 use cases which I will explain, and we'll talk about how it has helped for the customer overall. So first is like how we have improved the entire deployment cycle. Okay, first. Second is we will talk about how I can integrate it with my tools, which is like the ServiceNow type of tools, okay, which is ITSM tools, and how I can automate it out few of my L1, L2 jobs. And the third use case which I will show is like I can integrate it using a monitoring tool like a Nagios. And once I have read from the Nagios, if any event rises, for example, it can trigger the Ansible playbook based upon the work schedules. Good. Okay, so let's move to our first use case. So let's talk about how is our current deployment cycle initially. If we talk about there is no automation. So first of all, if I need to deploy a new application, what I need to go, I have to first go to my IT guy and request, boss, please create me a virtual machine. So what he will do, he will go, the sysadmin will go, he will create a virtual machine. Once it is created, then he will install the OS. Then what he will do, he will start installing the patches, because any IT organization, they will deploy all the security patches. What will happen? It will then deploy a config, whatever a configuration which you have given, they will deploy the config. and that has to be audited by an information assurance. So a report has to be, so you have to send a report. Based upon that report, okay, now the server has been approved and it is given to the application delivery. Now, if you want to go and apply a new patches, again, you have to go to the sysadmin, install the patches, and the same cycle has to be repeated. So this is a time consuming job, right? Approximately, I have been very conservative. It takes 3 hours, but I have seen in an IT organization, it goes up to 7 days because their processes are so long, because you have to approve for the VM. You have to go and get it audited from your security CISO, security team, that all the security baselining has been done. So being conservative, I've taken 72 hours, but in an ideal scenario, it goes up to 4 or 5, 6 days to do this application. So this is like a time consuming, right? Where a developer has to wait for 6 days to get a new machine, or any new deployment has come, they have to wait for 6 days or 3 to 6 days to get a new machine for the deployment. So if this process is automated, can I do an automation using an Ansible playbook? Definitely yes. So what I will do, whatever steps are required, which has to be done by a sysadmin, I can write it into a simple playbook. I can create a template, for example, a Red Hat template, a web application, a database template. I can create a single template or a playbook and it can work for me. So once I have done a push button from an Ansible, it will create a virtual machine, it will provision the server, it will patch my OS image, it will configure my server, it will do the security baseline, it will send immediately and into an information assurance, and it is ready for my deployment. And the security validation can also be automated. If there are 10 to 15 things which a security officer looks, that can be also automated using this part. And once it is deployed, I can run this particular application on a pool of servers. And the maintenance can also be automated. And I should not take more than 2 hours. So see the time which we have reduced, right, to go to the market. It is from 72 or 73 hours to 2 hours. So if you go to your customer, or if any of your clients require this, you can automate this process and help them to move their application faster. Okay. So this is a complete example of an DevOps, where you have provisioned the server, which I've talked thing. You have provisioned the server, you have patched the OS image, you have configured the server, you have deployed your application, and you have even validated from your security baseline. This is the entire DevOps which you can do with Ansible. Okay. So the second case study which I want to discuss about, a lot of customers are now coming. There are a lot of repetitive tasks which come from a ServiceNow. Can I automate it out? This L1 level job, which doesn't have a major impact on any of my business case, but it is a time consuming. For example, creation of user, or deployment, or creating a virtual machine for a test environment, or it might be install of any of the small application or web-based tool, or even install a small applications on my desktop. Can I automate it out? I can definitely automate it. So in that case, what we can define, so how is our current scenario work? So if, for example, if you are working in an IT organization, and if you need to install a particular application on your desktop, what do you need to go? You need to go and raise a ticket. So the ticket will go in your ITSM tool, whether it is a ServiceNow, HPSM, Everest, any of the ServiceNow tool. Okay. Once it reaches to your ServiceNow tool, it is assigned to this ticket is assigned to an engineer, right? Once the ticket is assigned to an engineer, based upon the workflow, it requires an approval. Once it is approved, the changes or the tasks is done. And once the tasks are completed, the tickets gets closed. This is the current cycle which we have. Definitely it will take because you will have an SLA. Each L1 engineer or an IT engineer, L1, L2 engineer or an IT engineer have a defined SLA. For example, creation of users SLA will be for 4 days. But will a person for creation of a user or install of a small application or install of a small client, they have to wait for 4 days? Why can't it be automated? So using an Ansible, you can automate that part. So, like in an IT organization, if there are around 15 to 20 repeated or 100 repeated tasks which come day to day, and near about 20% or 10 to 20% of your engineers are busy just doing that job, why can't I automate it out based upon an automated workflow? So in that case, how I can automate it out? Once the ticket is raised, for example, an application raises or a person who needs a request, a ticket is raised. Okay. Based upon the workflow or based upon the design, an auto ticket workflow will be definited, an auto approval will happen, and the task is done using an Ansible playbook. Once task is executed, the ticket is closed. So like creation of users, it doesn't require, right? You can have a limit for on this server, you can have this number of tickets can be created. Entire workflow can be automated using Ansible. So the ticketing tool will call the Ansible API. The Ansible API will work on the approvals and the tasks to be executed, and it will send a request to a service, any of your ITSM, that the ticket has been done, please close. This is the entire automation which you can do using Ansible. This is the use case which a lot of IT industries are looking into, because this saves approximately 30 to 35% of their manual efforts. Okay, man-hours efforts, and those man-hour efforts can be executed or can be utilized to a better job than doing the L1 jobs. And instead of 72 to 96 hours, I can close this in 1 hour using the automation. So I think someone has raised a hand. You can put your questions in the chat. I can answer on that. So whatever questions you have, please, Prajuk, you can put it in the chat. So the third use case which I want to talk is like, there are a lot of tools, or there are a lot of errors, or there are a lot of events which happen on the server also. Okay, so for that also people raise a ticket, and those has to be clear. Can I do that IT automation for that also? So for example, I can define few of the events from my monitoring tool, that okay, if my particular space increases, for example, in a database, there are a lot of archive logs which gets generated. If my space gets more than 80%, I will trigger an event where it will raise my ticket. It will go and it will call the Ansible playbook to clear my archive logs or clear my space through an automatic workflow, complete the task and close the ticket. For example, the same thing can be used. For example, if I have seen that there is some sort of unauthorized access is happening on my server, and that monitoring tool will send an event to my Ansible playbook through an Ansible. If you want to raise a ticket, or it can automatically trigger a workflow which will block all those users which is having an unauthenticated part. Or there might be, we can do a sort, for example, if a web application is going more than 80% or 90% of the CPU, it will trigger an event. It will go and see like what are the activities, and it will clear the tasks. So you can automate whatever your daily activities, daily monitoring. For example, if any of the server space is getting full, you need to clear some space, or there is some DCDR synchronization issue, or is there is any unauthorized user access, you can automate the entire process. And there are thousands of use cases which can be done. And you can have a monitoring using the tickets also, that okay, this much number of space I have increased on the server with a limitation. So you can always have a limitation. For example, if an 100 GB disk I have allocated to a server and it has increased, I can have an upper limit till 200 GB, and I can go in a chunks of 10, 15 GB. And once it has reached 200 GB, then it should be assigned to an N2 job. I can automate the entire process using Ansible. So the job which we will take, because until unless someone is monitoring, and if the issue raises out, you can have a downtime. But if I have an automation with a monitoring tool, I can reduce my downtime also. Because a lot of time we have seen any of the space or any of my temporary table space or any of my application CPU utilization, memory utilization goes high, I will have a downtime. The monitoring tool will just give an alert. But for example, if the alert comes at 2 o'clock in the night, and and maybe whoever is assigned at 2 o'clock, if he has not seen, it is a human error, and once in the morning it will have an issue, right? And you will have a downtime where you can reduce the business downtime also. Okay, so I'll just go through a small demo immediately. Okay. Okay. So this is a small demo I wanted to show, which shows you the entire deployment of the application. Okay, this is a small calendar application which we have shown on a Tomcat. So I'll go a little fast because we are running out of time. It's already 6. So in this machine, if you see, there is no Tomcat installed at this point in time. Okay, this is a IP address. And if you see, this is a calendar application which we are trying to install. There is no calendar application here. So this calendar application at this point in time is in my Git repository. Okay, I can pull it directly using an Ansible, this calendar.war, and deploy it in my application. Okay, this is an Ansible dashboard tower, how it looks. And this is my playbook, which is written to deploy the entire Tomcat and the application. So I have initiated it out. Now you see there is no Tomcat available. Okay, now I have initiated. It will start installing the Tomcat. It will ensure that the Tomcat is running. It will pull the project from the GitHub. It will deploy it. And see, the application is up. It took hardly 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to deploy my entire application, which takes time. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can please ask. So it's already 6 o'clock. Sorry, it's around 10 minutes addition which I have put up.